Hi, first grade. For math, you are going to need a whiteboard, if you have one, or a piece of paper, your rectangles and squares, which you should have cut out prior to this video. Hopefully you did that. And your math workbook. Ta-da. And a pencil, of course. Oh, and of course a whiteboard marker, if you have a whiteboard. Today's learning goal is to understand the attributes of squares and rectangles. And when I say attributes, I mean the characteristics, the defining features of the shapes squares and rectangles. Let's start. Grab your whiteboard. I'll grab mine. Go ahead and on your whiteboard, take like 30 seconds to draw the different flat or 2D, two-dimensional shapes that you already know. So go ahead and do that. So you're looking for those flat 2D shapes. So not 3D, not three-dimensional shapes, but just any of the flat two-dimensional shapes that you know. I'm going to draw a few myself. If you want to keep drawing, you can pause the video, but I'm going to go ahead. You might have drawn some of these. If you did, great. Also, don't mind this big stream of light. It's just the time of day. We have triangle, 3 sides, circle. Now, of course, that's not a perfect circle because I freehanded it, but there's no sides, right? And it's connected, so it's a circle. Then we have this one, a square, to the best that I could, make it all equal. Rectangle. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides, and remember that hint for remembering what we call a six-sided figure is a hexagon. Hexagon, 6. Hex means 6, hexagon, 6-sided figure. This guy should look like a stop sign. It's a little wonky on this side, that's okay. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides. 8 sides, similar to the number of legs that an octopus has, meaning this is an octagon. There you go. And then down here, I did a little trapezoid. Well, I tried to do it. It's a little uneven, actually. So those are just some shapes. You probably had similar ones that we think of the top of our head when we go, all right, 2D shapes. What are those? Today, we're going to focus on 2 of those shapes. I will show you the ones, and let's see if you can figure it out. You probably already figured this out if you cut out the shapes that I asked you to, the specific ones. Today, we're going to be all about rectangles and squares, rectangles and squares. All right. So go ahead and, I know this is going to sound weird, but you're going to take your shapes. This is what I would have you do at school on your desk, so let's try it. You'll take the shapes you cut out, all right, which should be just the squares and rectangles. These are all rectangles, by the way, even the ones that are squares. We'll get into that, but there are 11 of them. Take them, put them flat down on your workspace in front of you. And I'd just like you to play with them for maybe, 5 minutes. I'll show you when I say play with them. I literally mean go ahead, put them on a flat surface and just move them around. See if you can build anything out of them. All right. Spell words, whatever you want. So pause the video and do that for about 5 minutes. Once you're bored, turn the video back on. Welcome back. All right, so now that you've kind of gotten a chance to play around with those shapes, what do you notice is the same about these shapes? What do you notice that is the same about these shapes? The ones that you were just playing with that you cut out. Here's one. What do they all have in common? I'll give you a hint. One, a two, a three, a four. They all have 4 sides. These are their sides. And they each have 4 corners. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you went through and checked every one of these, you would count 4 sides and 4 corners. Beautiful. Pick up your, which one? Let's do the big purple rectangle. Hold it up. And with me, go ahead and point to, we're going to point and count each of the sides just to make sure. And then we'll do corners. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those were the sides. Now let's do the corners where those sides meet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. You might notice that some of these shapes have sort of longer sides and shorter sides, whereas some of these shapes have sides that are all equal in length. And you can, you probably already know this, but that means that these are what we refer to typically as rectangles, where these are a special type of rectangle, which we call a square. Square. Now, let's talk about squares. Take your arm, there we go. Take your arm and hold it out. Your elbow's about here, okay? And I'd like you to lift up your forearm where it bends at your elbow, okay? Right now, you are making what is called a square corner, okay? Square corner. And, sorry, gotta use my arm. Okay, here's my square corner. I just want you to see just how square this corner is, right? I can fit a book, right, which has a square corner itself, right into the nook of my elbow there. Go ahead and make this with your arm as well. Excellent. Now, if I were to, now still my square corner, if I were to open this a little bit this way, no longer a square corner, okay? It's too big. It's too big. Later you'll get into, that's called an obtuse angle, but you don't even know that at this moment, but that's too big. Now, if I were to close it a little bit, and it's kind of coming back in, no longer a square corner, that's what we would call an acute angle. But again, you just need to make sure you understand that this, which is 90 degrees, is what we call a square corner. I'm going to draw something on my board. And, it's getting hot in my room because I have to turn the fan off for these videos, and there's no curtains in here, so it's great. Okay, I'm going to draw 2 figures. I'll divide my board in half just to make it very clear for you. Hopefully you can notice that I have I have one rectangle here, and then I have one shape that is close to a rectangle, but it's not, all right? I bet you could point to the one that is a rectangle. Hopefully you pointed to this one. Now, I know this one looks similar. However, what's wrong with it? It's open. These 2 sides are not meeting. It is what we would consider open. It is not closed. Okay, this one closed. Closed meaning all of its sides are connecting. This guy, he's open. Not a rectangle. Go ahead and cross that guy out. And again, I can double check this because if I were to trace this rectangle right here, sorry, sorry. Let's see. There we go, different color. If I were to trace this rectangle right here, did I have to lift up my marker? No, but if I were to trace this rectangle here, it doesn't begin or end at the same place. I used my pencil once, but I would then have to, it's blank. I can't connect it. Okay. My desk is a mess right now. I'm not really following my own protocols. Okay, great. Thanks for being with me. Thanks for staying focused. If you need to take a break, you can pause the video and do 10 jumping jacks. Go. All right, and if you didn't take the break, that's fine. We'll keep going. So all of these shapes that you have, that you spent the time cutting out this morning, these are all rectangles. Say it, all rectangles. Yes, even this one is a rectangle. Some rectangles, these two in particular, have a special name. They're called squares. Now, what is special about squares? I would be asking you, what is special about squares? What makes them different than all rectangles? All of their sides are the same length. All of their sides are the same length. Okay? Sometimes we show that in math by marking our sides with a certain line. Okay, and because these are all marked with a single line, that means they are the same length, each of these sides. However, if I were to do a rectangle, I would do something like this. These two sides are the same length, but these two sides are the same length. Okay? So that means that this side and this side are not the same. They're not using the same symbol to describe the length of its side. Does a square have 4 sides and 4 square corners? Yes, 4 sides and 4 of those square corners. A square is a rectangle. All 4 sides are the same length. So we can call it a square, we can call it a square rectangle, and we can call it just a rectangle, okay? All squares are rectangles because in order to be a rectangle, you just need 4 sides and 4 corners. Parallel sides. Anyway. Now, where is it? Sorry, got all my shapes here. Does this rectangle have 4 sides that are the same length? This one right here. No. Look at this. 1, 2. These sides, top and bottom, much longer than our end sides here, than our sides on the end. Some rectangles are not squares. The opposite sides are the same length, but one pair of sides is longer than the other pair of sides. So these guys match and these guys match, but they're not all the same length, okay? Square, oh, I lost a square. Oh well. Square, all 4 sides, same length. Rectangle, 4 sides. 2 have the same length, and another 2 have the same length, but they don't all match together. So just to recap very quickly, what defines a rectangle versus what defines a square is, here's my lovely little, just put it together. It's kind of a mess. So, all rectangles are closed, right? That means that all of their sides and corners connect. They have 4 sides. And they have 4 corners. Now, if we were to go ahead and define a square, we would also say they must be closed. They must have 4 sides. They must have 4 corners. All sides are equal. I'm just writing all sides equal in note form. So if you can just see the slight difference, same, same, same. That's kind of like the asterisk. So can a rectangle, so all squares, just to repeat it, even for myself sometimes, all squares are rectangles, but are all rectangles squares? No. Alrighty, now we're at the point in our activity where you can grab your workbook. Shout out if you stayed with me and focused the whole time. Give yourself a round of applause. You will open to page 217. I know you're probably like, Mrs. F, what about these other shapes? Don't worry about them yet. This one, page 215, should still be in your notebook. Don't rip it out yet, because then you'll lose it. And the, this little piece here, you can either just stick it in your book, okay? Like, I would stick it back in right here, if you can, okay? You could stick it in there to keep it, or put it somewhere safe. All of these, I would hang on to them in a small Ziploc bag. All right, sorry. Open to page 217, and you'll see here we've got some vocabulary up in the yellow box. Rectangles, squares, sides, square, corners, which are things we just reviewed. And go ahead, and you're just going to do pages 217 and 218. I'm not going to do them with you, but I'll read you the directions, okay? I think you can do them on your own. Number 1 says, which shapes are not rectangles or squares? Draw an X on each one. So if it's a rectangle or a square, leave it. But if it's not, draw an X through it. And again, to check to see if it's a square or rectangle, it needs to have 4 sides, 4 corners, closed, and a square can be all sides the same. A rectangle has equal parallel sides. But anyway, so you're looking for squares and rectangles. Anything that's not, cross it out. Number 2, it says draw the shape. 4 sides, 4 square corners. Number 3, 4 sides the same length, 4 square corners. If you have a ruler, you can definitely use a ruler for this one. If you don't, you can freehand it, but just try and be very, very detailed as you work. The next page, 218. Here we are. Sorry. All right, got it. It says, sort the shapes into 3 groups. Squares. Sorry. Here we go. Sort the shapes into 3 groups. Squares, rectangles that are not squares or rectangles. Draw each shape in the correct place on the sorting map. So this is, again, here's your data. Take it and sort it. Okay, if it's a square, draw it in here and then cross it out up here. If it's a rectangle that's not a square, okay, draw it in here and then cross it out here. If it's not a square or a rectangle, meaning it's a closed shape or it's an open shape or it's a shape that has more than 4 sides, it's going to go in that final box. And that's it. And then you're done with your math. Great work. Bye.